Think about some of the world's most innovative solutions. Many of them started as simple ideas, a solution to a problem, a better way of doing things, or a vision that someone believed could make a real difference. Now imagine having the opportunity to turn that idea into a real solution, supported by mentors, industry experts, funding, and a network designed to help you to succeed. That's exactly what the Bank of Namibia's Fintech Youth Program aims to do. Today, we'll be exploring how the program aims to nurture the next generation of innovators, why youth innovation matters, and how aspiring entrepreneurs can get involved and join this exciting journey. I'm Nafiku Hamunime, your host, and in this exciting edition of BoNcast, we're joined by none other than Ms. Valeria Mbango, the Director of Strategy, Projects and Transformation at the Bank of Namibia. And she will be unpacking what the Fintech Youth Program is all about and also presenting the opportunities that it presents for young Namibians. Valeria, welcome to the BoNcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Nafiku.
It's a pleasure. Valeria, we've been hearing at the bank a lot about this FinTech Youth Program. And I think before we go into the details, maybe we can just take a little bit of a step back and talk about some of the trends we're seeing. So I think, as your team is often sharing with us, what we're picking up is that Africa is one of the world's fastest growing markets when it comes to fintech. However, when we look at the country itself, we know that Namibia has a big youth unemployment problem. So how do these two different trends actually talk to each other? And why is it important for us as a country to focus on youth innovation?
No, you're quite right, Nafiku. I think that the timing couldn't be more important. Across the African continent, fintechs are transforming how people pay, how people invest, and just the general provision of financial services. And I think although there's a decline in venture capital funding globally, I think on the African continent, we've learned that fintechs are actually getting the highest portion of startup investment. And that is because fintechs are actually solving everyday challenges of Africans across the continent. And in Namibia in particular, I think we are also at a very important point because with the recent census data, we've learned that we are just over 3 million Namibians now. And in excess of 2 million of those 3 million people are actually below the age of 35. At the same time, we also know that currently one of the biggest socioeconomic challenges that we are facing in the country is high unemployment. Generally, I believe the figure is around 37%. But if you zone into the youth segment, it goes even higher at around just over 44%. So we also need to start looking at fintechs as job creators. So if we can just support them with the right skills, the mentorship, the funding required so that they can create employment not only for themselves but for others as well, I think that's the opportunity that the Bank of Namibia is trying to support. And this is why we created the Fintech Youth Program.
Yeah. So, Valeria, against that backdrop, maybe if you can just expand a little bit more in terms of what really inspired the Bank of Namibia to launch the FinTech Youth Program, and also what role will the program play when it comes to actually unlocking some of these opportunities?
So we made an important observation. I think we've had a fintech innovation framework in place for a couple of years. We haven't really seen the impact that we would like to see, and we started engaging the fintechs. And what we learned is that we actually have a lot of innovative youth, young Namibians who have many ideas. But unfortunately, they are often experiencing a number of barriers, whether it's funding, whether it's technical know-how, access to markets, and so forth. So the program then wants to facilitate bridging those gaps. We are also cognizant of the fact that as a Bank of Namibia in this case, we don't play in all those areas. So it was very important in our approach to make sure that we take on a very collaborative and coordinated approach. So we've onboarded collaborators who are going to assist us support this fintech across the ecosystem. And the important thing for us is that we meet these fintechs or potential applicants where they are. So the way the program is structured is based on different tiers. We have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And both of them are assisting fintechs which are at different levels of this life cycle. So that's really the key difference, really bringing different collaborators together so that we can provide that support across the ecosystem depending on where the fintech finds themselves.
Yeah, so it's actually providing a more structured approach, and then also, as you're saying, bringing on additional players as well, because obviously Bank of Namibia can't do everything. So I think that's really interesting. I'd actually like to hear more in terms of how does this program support the Bank of Namibia's broader objectives, such as, for example, promoting financial inclusion and also just generally supporting economic development in the country?
So part of our core mandate at the Bank of Namibia also involves a responsibility to foster an inclusive and innovative and a sustainable financial system, in essence. So the FinTech Youth Program is one way of doing that. So we are trying to empower fintechs to build sustainable solutions that are not only solving problems that are faced by everyday Namibians on a daily basis, but problems that are also, or rather solutions that are also going to contribute to key policy objectives that the bank is also responsible for advancing, such as financial inclusion, modernizing the banking system, and so forth. So we are really trying to empower these fintechs together with our collaborators to come up with these solutions.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe for some people who may not necessarily be familiar with the concept, and I can even throw myself in that bundle a little bit, what exactly is it? What do we mean when we're saying fintech? What is a fintech? And also, what kind of solutions do you actually want to promote?
Yeah. So at its core, fintech is concerned with provision of financial services using technology and finding better ways, easier ways, more cost-effective ways to make provision for financial services. Yeah. So that is really the simple definition of what fintech is. And the type of solutions that will be looking for, I think technology is important, but for us, I think that's one part of the solution. The really important part is what problem are we solving with this technology? And like I alluded to earlier, we are really concerned about solutions that are going to contribute to key policy objectives. So whether it's how do you make provision for financial services to currently excluded segments of our population, whether it's rural areas, remote areas, that's very important to us. How do we facilitate innovation within the financial system? How do we modernize within the financial system? That's very important to us. And how do we, beyond just digital payments, how do we make sure that there's equitable access to financial services within our country? So it's a use of technology to solve problems, but those problems that are being solved are critically important because we are trying to make sure that we come up with solutions that are meaningful for Namibian people.
And I love that you said, beyond payments, because oftentimes people just think about, payment service provider, like just being able to facilitate that. But there's so many other needs that Namibians have where it's not being fulfilled. So there's a huge vacuum, essentially, and things that people can do. So you mentioned earlier about the fact that, you're going to be bringing on some collaborators, a number of different institutions and partners. Can you tell us a bit more about some of these partners? Is it people that we know, institutions we've heard of, and specifically, what role will they actually play in terms of the program?
So yes, we've onboarded a number of collaborators, and we are really humbled because of their support. And I think there's power in numbers. We are not good at everything, but there are many other people who are good at those areas, and therefore we are really trying to join hands and not do things in silo. So of the 7 collaborators, I think the Bank of Namibia, so we are coordinating these collaborators in terms of supporting the fintechs at various stages where they find themselves. We are also availing funding in this case. And of course, through our Innovation Hub, we have the regulatory sandbox. So that will also be available for relevant ideas that require testing where perhaps the regulatory framework may not be in place entirely at this point in time. We've also joined hands with NIPDB, and they will be providing pitching as well as access to market support. Then we have Bellatrix. They will actually be providing fund management support. They will be doing investment readiness, and they'll also be doing a lot of financial literacy. Similar to Old Mutual. Old Mutual will also be doing financial literacy support. Then we also have Basecamp. Basecamp will be supporting from an ideation perspective, prototyping, and just assisting to refine the business case. We have MTC as well as MTC Maris. They will be responsible for providing market access and also access to their infrastructure, as well as technical kind of mentoring and support. And then finally, we have CC Hub, which will be supporting from an incubation perspective.
And I think what's really interesting, Valeria, and you were mentioning this offline, is the importance of actually having an ecosystem approach. So even as you're describing all of the partners and the different areas that they specialize in and will be providing support, it really shows that it'll be quite a comprehensive network that will be supporting all of our young entrepreneurs. So now moving on to the program itself, and I'm sure many people, this is the key question everyone will be asking, is who can actually apply for this program? And also, am I only eligible if I have an existing business? What if I'm still in the process of getting it off the ground? Maybe if you can just speak to that.
No, not at all, Nafiku. You don't need to have a business. Individuals and businesses can apply. You can even be a group of students. If you have a good idea that is going to solve any of the policy objectives or challenges that are being experienced by Namibians today, you are welcome to participate. I think where we place a lot of emphasis is that we want youth to participate. And by youth, we mean people between the ages of 15 and 34. And if you are a group of people, at least 51% must be Namibian. And at least one of the co-founders should qualify in terms of youth. So I think that's where we place a lot of emphasis. And that is it. So it's both individuals as well as businesses. I must highlight that there are different categories of participation. We have what we call Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. And those are designed to suit fintechs or ideators who are at different stages. So Tier 1 is more for the ideation phase, if I can call it that. And then Tier 2 and Tier 3 is designed more around businesses or solutions which could already exist but are looking to maybe mature, gain access to market, or perhaps scale. But I'm sure also within the caption we'll provide the link to the framework that provides and outlines more information in terms of the different categories that exist and how support will be availed to those fintechs.
Yeah, so I think that's very clear in terms of who is eligible for the program and also what level you need to be at. I mean, it's anything from someone who just has an idea to you have an operational business and you want to take it to the next level. So I know that usually one of the big things that people always talk about when it comes to either scaling a business or trying to build a fintech is funding. Funding is always something that comes up, but as we've just discussed, there are other areas of support that people also need. So maybe if you can just speak to us in terms of the full range of those support mechanisms that will really help some of our entrepreneurs go from concept to actually having something that they're able to implement.
You are quite right, Nafiku. Funding is certainly very important, but I think we have also found that funding is not the only problem, or rather to say that you can have funding and still not be successful. And that's why within this program, we've really designed it to provide, yes, financial solution, but also non-financial solutions that are also very important and critical to make sure that these fintechs are successful. But in the same vein, I am happy to share that the bank will be availing 5 million Namibian dollars that will also be advanced to fintechs where it's relevant throughout this process. There is going to be a very stringent application process to make sure that we are identifying the ideas with the highest potential to invest. But it doesn't necessarily mean that every idea will receive funding. Some ideas or fintechs may be at a stage where they need maybe financial literacy or technical support or incubation or mentoring and so forth. So it really depends on what is the need, and that will then be assessed through the different governance structures. But funding is part of that support that will be availed. Yeah.
And I mean, you hinted to this in your response just now, but in terms of that application process, maybe if you can just walk us through what the application will look like, and also just note maybe some of the key dates.
So the application process will run until the 15th of August, 2026. There will be an online application process. So there will be a form that would need to be completed and so forth. And once again, just to share that we will be going out with awareness. So there will be social media campaigns. There will be information that will be shared through print media, but once that application is submitted to the Bank of Namibia, we will take all applications through an assessment criteria. And then we have an investment committee, in essence, that has been established, and that investment committee will make recommendation to a bigger board, if I can call it like that, and that will consist of the Bank of Namibia, but also representation from our collaborators. And they will basically be deciding on which ideas will be getting which type of support. And that feedback will be communicated to the applicants.
And so I think, as we are wrapping up the conversation and we've spoken about all the important points, so what is the program about? How do I apply? Who is eligible? I think, I'd like to just hear from your side. If you had a message to deliver to a young person who is hearing about the Fintech Youth Program, considering applying, what message or what encouragement would you give them?
I would definitely give them a very simple message, and it's to encourage them to apply. I think all big ideas and all success stories start
somewhere.
They start somewhere, and somebody had an idea, and somebody had the courage to try. Don't underestimate your ability to solve a problem that you could be observing within the financial system or perhaps within your community. So I just want to really encourage everybody to apply and give it a shot. I think our intention here is to empower, and I hope that that can be received well. And more than that, for me, in 5 years' time, if you ask me what is success, I would like to see a homegrown fintech-enabled solution that is addressing Namibian challenges, built by Namibian people for Namibian people. And that is really what we want to achieve with this program.
I think, Valeria, you have summed it up. I have no more questions for you. We're all looking very much forward to the Fintech Youth Program going live, and 5 years from now having a Namibian innovation that we can all be proud of. So thank you very much, Valeria.
Thank you for having me.
As we conclude today's conversation, one thing is clear. Innovation doesn't just rest with big companies or large institutions. Sometimes all it takes is a simple idea to solve a problem and the courage to take the first step. A sincere thank you to Valeria for taking the time to share and unpack this very exciting initiative. And once again, thank you to our listeners for being part of this important conversation. Until next time, goodbye.